What's a nesting agreement and will it work for you? My name's Heather O'Connor from O'Connor Family Law. We are a divorce and custody law firm based out of Massachusetts. Now, everybody knows what a bird's nest is. It's when the two birds create that nest, and that's where the children are raised. And a lot of times you can think of that as your home. Now, in human life, when that home is broken, typically one parent will move out of the home and the other parent will stay. Now, in a nesting agreement, that's a different scenario. And in that typical scenario, the children will go from home to home depending on whose parenting time it is. Now, in a nesting agreement, it's very different because the children are not the ones who leave the house. The children stay exactly where they are and the parents rotate. Now, the thought behind this is it creates stability, it creates consistency for the children where they don't have two homes. They have one home that they know, they're used to, and the routine can remain the same. We have been getting more questions about nesting agreements than we typically did in the past, and I've seen more couples trying to enact that. However, once things get going, more often than not, I hear that that type of arrangement does not work out. And I just want to discuss why. The first is that a nesting agreement really is more of like a Band-Aid temporary effect. You are not going to be able to have a long-term agreement where the parents continue with that type of arrangement. Why? The longer the relationship is broken up, the more likely it is that the parents are going to move on. And once parents start moving on, everything might be fine and great while they're single. But the second one of them has another significant other, everything changes. It is definitely not a long-term fix. Another problem with it is that I often see that one party will follow everything to a T, but then the other party doesn't. So it might be, let's say, one party stays in the house Monday through Wednesday. The other party is supposed to come in on Wednesday and stay till Friday. If one party refuses to leave, what happens? If the parents are staying apart and the children are moving, it's not as big a deal if somebody doesn't follow it. But when both parents are in the same place, especially if there's a lot of tension between the parents, it's not going to be a good scenario, and it's just going to lead to more fighting in front of the children, which is what typically you're trying to avoid. It also really leaves you with not a lot of room to move forward. You don't have your privacy because the other person is coming in. You have to be careful of where you're leaving things, what you're leaving around. And if you have a parent on the other side who is a snooper, then that privacy is right out the window. It can also sometimes cause more confusion for the kids when they see their parents coming in and out of the house, but they can't figure out why their parents aren't staying there together. Sometimes just that definitive separation and knowing that this is mom's place and this is dad's place, that actually can help a child. And if one of the reason that the relationship didn't work out is because one person wasn't pulling their weight, well, guess what? That's not likely to change if the two of you are still living in the same house, although at different times. If one parent refused to pick up after themselves or help with any of the housework, that's not going to change. And then more than likely, the other parent is going to come in and just find everything a disaster. Now, I have seen nesting agreements work in a few cases. And really, those were situations where the parents just decided the relationship wasn't working for them. They didn't want to be together, but they were still good friends. And they could still hang out and they could still talk. And they didn't have a lot of the underlying issues that a lot of breakups have. I've also seen an arrangement where the two parents bought a multifamily house together and one lived in one apartment and the other lived in another apartment, and the kids could just go freely whenever they wanted, and that worked for them. The important thing is that if something works for you, let it work for you. Don't do something just because somebody else said, hey, this is the best way to do it. Maybe it worked out great for them, but maybe it's not going to work for you. And until you actually get into the swing of things, you might not know. But typically there's certain characteristics that we see in people that lead us to believe that a nesting agreement is not going to be the best choice. So there you have it. That's what a nesting agreement is. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to our firm. We are happy to answer your questions and help you as much as we can. Again, my name is Heather O'Connor from O'Connor Family Law.